Good morning. I'm Lisa Burby, and my pronouns are she and her. And I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Huntington. Welcome also to those of you who are watching us on Facebook and later on YouTube. I'd like to extend a special welcome today to any newcomers who are here. If you are new to our congregation and want to speak with someone to learn more about us, please contact one of our greeters or the office. And know that whoever you are, whomever you love, and wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome here. Today, I'd also like to welcome our guest speaker, Minister Dana Moore. When not nurturing her two beautiful children, Dana is committed to being a social justice warrior through her ministry work with youth and young adults. She calls the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Montclair her spiritual home and foundation for her lay leadership. Dana is in her third year as a Master of Divinity student at Starr King School for the Ministry, one of only two UU theological schools in the nation. There she serves on the student body government and delights in studying feminine leadership and world religion. Dana loves cheese of all kinds. She likes purple everything, and learning and collaborating with fellow UUs. She is a St. Lawrence scholar and the 2023-24 intern minister, also known as a student minister, at the UU congregation at Shelter Rock in Manhasset. This year, Dana also looks forward to exploring covenants and conflict in community and meeting more UUs as she interviews congregations for the UUA Commission on Appraisal's most current project, The Changing Landscape of Unitarian Universalism. If you'd like to know more about her as a member of the Commission on Appraisal, find her during coffee and social hour. Welcome, Dana.
Thank you, Lisa, and Huntington community. I'd also like to thank Isabella for the beautiful music. And I hope you'll join me with your beautiful voices in all of our songs today. Is that something we can do? Yes. Thank you. Our opening words come from late UU ancestor Hope Johnson. And she says, "We are one, a diverse group of proudly kindred spirits, here not by coincidence, but because we choose to journey together. We are active and proactive. We care deeply. We live our love as best we can. We are one, working, eating, laughing, playing, singing, storytelling, sharing, and rejoicing, getting to know each other, taking risks, opening up, questioning, seeking, searching, trying to understand, struggling, making mistakes, paying attention, asking questions, listening, living our answers, learning to love our neighbors, learning to love ourselves, apologizing and forgiving with humility, and being forgiven through grace, creating the beloved community together. We are one. Let us begin our worship together." Our opening hymn this morning is a special one. As our hearts are grieving for the world and all those suffering in this time of global strife, may our songs and voices be a gentle, loving, prayerful balm, a deep and certain devotion, a call for the love and care and justice that we long to see in the world. Please join me in singing our opening hymn, "This is My Song." number 159 in your hymnals.
As Dana lights our chalice, a symbol of our faith, I'll read these words from Albert Einstein. The most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious. It is the fundamental emotion that stands at the cradle of true art and true science. Thank you. As always, we have a few announcements. The Pumpkin Queens would like to let you know that there are still many opportunities to help out at the patch. Please stop by after the service to sign up for a shift. There'll be a table in the social hall. And many thanks to all who have already helped. I drove by this morning and was shocked that all the pumpkins we unloaded from the truck last Saturday have dwindled quite significantly. That's a good thing. If you are new to the fellowship or are curious and would like to know more about us, please join Reverend Deborah in her office after next Sunday's service, October 22. It will be an opportunity to ask questions about Unitarian Universalism, our fellowship, and our religious community here in Huntington. And in association with the UU Trauma Response Ministry, Reverend Dr. Madeline Campbell, interim minister of the UU Fellowship at Stony Brook, is offering a special trauma circle on October 18 at 7 p.m. for those in the congregation with Jewish identity and their families, so that we may process the Hamas terrorist attack and continuing events. Pastor Madeline is opening this to all Long Island Jewish UUs, and the circle will be held on Zoom, and if you're interested, you can contact Nikki Willard, who raised your hand, Nikki? Okay. And also just the African American History Museum will have its first fundraiser at the site, which is just across from the pumpkin patch next Sunday, so you can do both. It's very convenient. And you can see Helen Boxwell. Is Helen here? Okay, you can see Helen for information. Now you can get these details and many more for all of our events in the flash and on our website, UUFH.org. And if you don't yet get our weekly flash, which is delivered to your inbox every Thursday morning, you can sign up on our homepage so you can find out what's happening here. And now I invite us all to settle into our bodies, quiet our minds as we breathe deeply together, and settle into this time of worship. Please join me in saying our mission statement. The words are on the screen. In religious community, we nurture our individual spirits through caring for one another and helping to heal the world. Now is the time in our service where we invite you to light a candle for something deep in your heart. Doretha, our pastoral care associate today, will come forward and join us at the candles in the front. There'll be a basket for cards for joys and concerns that you'd like shared in this congregation. She will have blank cards and pens if you'd like to write something now. And as Isabella plays, I invite you to come forward or go to the candle table at the back. We have a candle for having a family who supports me through my transition. Pray for Julie. Please pray for my cousins who lost their daughter from a brain bleed. Please pray for my friend who faces spinal surgery tomorrow. I have an ocean of tears for that patch of land and people that suffer so much. And for all innocent children caught in war. Dana will now lead us in prayer.
Great Spirit of love and life that moves through each of us, draw near. Close enough that we might feel your presence, your love, your strength, your reassurance. Great Creator of all things, we come now across platforms and practices to declare our joy, our resilience, to proclaim on purpose that we have survived the pandemics of our time. We have survived. We are surviving. We have pivoted, and we have planned, and then replanned, and then thrown all plans to the wind. In this circle, we will say without shame that some days we lost our way, and our tempers and our wits. And we have not always been our best selves. We are learning, and not always quickly. To regroup, to remember perfection was never the point, but forgiveness and love that we hope to carry in our hearts. We are here because we long to try again, to promise with people to be partners in this long haul work of loving and becoming, even while we grieve, also the cost, which is not small and lingers so deeply in our hearts, and turns only sometimes to rage. Dear Spirit of love and life, help our bodies in the presence of all that is holy. Help these bodies to live its truth, to live in truth, to shake free the stories that live in our skin, to breathe in its beauty and breathe out its burdens, to breathe in our beauty and breathe out our burdens, to be here with it all, with all of us, in the freedom of this new day. Help us to remember that the storm is passing over. It always is. The sun is breaking through, and the rainbows, though they may hide behind the clouds, are there. This new day dawns for us all. Bind our hearts in love. Let our every breath be a reminder that the precious Spirit of life moves within us, that our every breath is a blessing. May it be a blessing to all those in need. Amen. I am grateful for Gretchen Haley, who that prayer was adapted from. And I invite you to sing with me our response, Spirit of Life. I am so excited to share this short story with you. It may sound like a story about pain and grief, but the illustrations and the pictures tell another story, a story about empathy and spiritual gifts. You see, our friend Elu, who you will meet in a moment, has a magical gift that allows her to see other people's hurts and pains. So look closely as I read and notice what you notice about Elu throughout this story.
If the children would like to come forward and sit in the front row, you can see the screen better, perhaps.
If you are young or young at heart and would like to join me up here for this story, please, please come and join me. Yes! The young adults and the youth and young adults always come through. Thank you. So this story is called Yes, I See You. And it is written by Jody Lee. Everyone has a story. And the pages in our stories define who we are. Sometimes what happens on those pages changes us. It hurts us deep inside. Sometimes we carry it around with us. Sometimes we cannot forget or let go. And sometimes it is grief, a sadness that takes time to heal. Sometimes it's not wanting to forget a person or thing we loved. Sometimes it's anger. How could that happen to us? Sometimes it's fear that we will never be happy again without what we had or the way things were. Sometimes the feelings are so big we can't feel them all at once. And sometimes we just get stuck or can't move. But then a person comes along who understands our story, who sees us exactly as we are. And in the magic of that compassion, we are freed, finally able to let go and release what we carried. Our hurt is transformed into a part of us that can now rest as a memory. Because love heals. So what did you notice? Anything in particular? Elu, our friend here in the story, accompanies every person when they're sad. She notices and sees them, kind of like what our parents and ministers do, or our siblings and really good friends. They notice when we're sad, and they help us by listening to us and being with us. And this is very special. It's a gift to see something invisible in others. Are there invisible things that you see in people? Some kids can see colors in and around people. Some kids can see sickness in other people, in their bodies. And some kids can even see angels and people that used to be alive. Sometimes people call this a spiritual gift because they believe that each person is born with a special gift or talent that they must discover as they grow and then use it in the world to help other people. You probably know a lot of people with gifts like these. Some people are talented musicians, and they discovered a love for music when they were young, and now they use their talent to bring people joy. Some people are really super smart, and they become teachers or creators and innovators that help the world and help other people to learn. Some people have the gift of healing, and so they become nurses and paramedics and veterinarians to help people and animals feel better. And some people have the gift of prophecy. That means they can see something into the future. They might sense it somewhere in their bodies or just have a knowing. It reminds me of hurricanes. So, for instance, if a hurricane was coming, you'd want to know that, right? You'd want to know so you can prepare your home and your family so that you can all stay safe. Today, we rely on meteorologists to tell us the weather. But long ago, our ancestors used their senses, and they would watch the skies and the way things changed and moved, and they knew when storms were coming. I wonder what kind of special gifts you have, or what kind of special gifts you notice in your family. Does your family have any special talents? Do you notice those talents in your siblings and grandparents and others too? Keep an eye out for that. Thank you. We'll now sing Our Children and Youth to their classrooms. Thank you for joining me.
Each week, we have a collection for our split plate program. That means that undesignated donations are split between the fellowship and our charity of the month, unless you indicate otherwise. This month, we're supporting Make the Road New York, which is helping the thousands of asylum seekers who've made the trip to New York City. Donations help to pay for things like cash assistance and Metro cards. Make the Road New York's programs are designed to support families creating a resilient and tight-knit community that nurtures self-sufficiency and leadership of each member. Ushers will be passing the baskets while Isabella plays, and for those of you at home, you can send a check to the office or donate through the website. For all, thank you for your support for the work that we do within and beyond these walls. Our reading this morning comes from the Hebrew and Christian Bibles, the book of Genesis, chapter 16, verses 7 through 16. The angel of the Lord found Hagar near a spring in the desert. It was the spring that is beside the road to shore. And he said, Hagar, slave of Sarai, where have you come from, and where are you going? I'm running away from my mistress, Sarai, she answered. The angels of the Lord told her, Go back to your mistress, and submit to her. The angel added, I will increase your descendants so much that they will be too numerous to count. The angel of the Lord also said to her, You are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You shall name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard of your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him. And he will live in hostility toward all his brothers. She gave this name to the Lord who spoke to her. You are the God who sees me, she said, I have now seen the one who sees me. That is why the well was called Bir Lahai Roi. It is still there between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram gave the name Ishmael to the son she had born. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore him Ishmael.
You may be familiar with our musical meditation this morning, and because I love questions, I'll be asking a few more during my sermon, and I welcome you to answer those questions audibly. But for now, let's ponder hymn number 1003, Where Do We Come From?
Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going?
Good morning. My name is Dana Moore. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a member of the global majority. My skin is a warm, creamy brown. I wear brown glasses, red lips, and an autumnal-colored dress. My body is full and supple and perfect for hugs. I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness in the northeastern portion of America after both my maternal and paternal families were cut off from their cultural ancestral knowledge of shamanism and spiritual leadership. They seemed plagued by the constant presence of spiritual energy, an energy that they did not understand, an energy of radical spiritual phenomenon that they came to fear. Both families sought refuge in the conservative Christian religious faith of the Jehovah's Witnesses, who dismiss any form of spiritism as non-existent or demonic in nature. For my grandmothers seeking safety, the call to worship Jehovah and accept the Bible as the irrefutable word of God brought them great relief and a renewed sense of faith. In my congregation, we referred to each other as brother and sister. I'd often hear greetings like, "Good morning, Sister Connie," my grandmother, "Hey, Brother Grievous," my uncle, or "Young Sister Matthews," me, when I'd raise my hand to answer questions during Bible study. I understood that we were all spiritual brothers and sisters as the children of the same faith and the same God. And this reinforced a sense of community and familial care. But I didn't see this as limited to the people in my congregation or my faith as I was taught. It was clear by the scriptures in the Bible that we were all brothers and sisters and kin, every living human being. So today, I want to gather and share some of those connecting threads that for me reinforce the idea that we are all connected as biological and spiritual family. Will you journey with me? Great. I want to start with some general concepts so we can lay some common ground together. We can apply labels and names later, but let's go back in time, about 12,000 years. Let's skip the Adam and Eve narrative, because we may not all believe that we were created by an all-powerful being who breathed life into our bodies and then took a rib from the first creation to form a second being, totally reliant, obedient, and compliant to the first. I'm not sure about you, but that is not how it works in my home. And we may not all believe that we evolved as a species over time, gaining the faculties to form civilizations of sustenance. But what I'm hoping we can all agree on is that we've existed as functional humans for at least 12,000 years. Yes? Awesome. Because the first recorded community in our history actually dates back almost 140,000 years. And I think we can all agree that no matter how we came about, our most common strands of DNA, specifically mitochondrial DNA, which carries our matriarchal information, our mother's information, all of that DNA can be traced back to one starting point that we know of: the San people in southern Africa. Yes? Are we all there? Awesome. If you're not familiar, the San people of southern Africa, which includes Angola, Botswana, Namibia, and South Africa, are attributed with having some of the oldest known rock paintings and ritual ceremonies around the globe. DNA research shows that the San are direct descendants of the original haplogroup originating in Africa. A genetic population, or a haplogroup, is a genetic population or group of people who share a common ancestor on their maternal or paternal line, the line from which all others are formed. Now, are you ready for some science? Can we do that? Great. So you'll notice here that DNA naturally mutates when it's exposed to mutagens or chemicals like ionizing radiation or even infection by viruses. When this happens, a new haplogroup is formed. And adaptations to different climates and geographic migrations are also shown to be contributors to the evolution of haplogroups for Asian, European, and Native American people. So as our ancestors migrated, their DNA changed. The International Society of Genetic Genealogy reports that all nations of people started from the original haplogroup A00 in Africa. Now, genealogy or genetic genealogy combines both DNA testing and genealogical and historical records to determine relationships between individuals. So we do have both scientific and anthropological evidence that proves a striking commonality among all humans inhabiting the earth today. All humans have and are descendants of African ancestry. Hi, family. This is so great because about 8,000 years ago, some people from Mesopotamia began to record their history and lineage. Now, I don't know if they were as enthusiastic as former astronaut Cees Kloosterman, who traced his ancestry all the way back to the sand of southern Africa. Now, you might notice that Cees Kloosterman is a man of European descent. He is also a former astronaut, and you might notice on the slide there, he talks about coming from the Earth and going to outer space and coming right back. But we do know that this happened, that families expanded and combined and recorded their relationships for generations. There's even an ancient story that has been passed down for centuries that says so. It's the story of Jacob and Rachel, who fell in love when Rachel was far too young. So Jacob married her sisters, and when Rachel became of age, they were betrothed and eventually had 2 children. I say eventually because Rachel had challenges with infertility. And this story chronicles those challenges. Just like another story that can be found as a collection of stories in a very well-known book. You see, one of our eldest ancestors, whose lineage was recorded, was named Abraham, and he was married to a woman named Sarai. Abraham was a deeply spiritual man, and so it wasn't surprising that he had had a phenomenal spiritual experience out in the wilderness one day. It came to him by way of supernatural presence, a presence that we still are unable to define today, but it came to him that he would be the progenitor of nations, that he would someday have a child who would breed and lead nations of people that would inhabit the earth and sacred holy lands. Oh, by the way, some people call this force of supernature God. And so if it's okay with you, I will refer to that force of supernature as God for the rest of our time. Is that okay? Awesome. Oh, and that book of stories that I spoke about is often referred to as the Bible. Some of you might know it. Many UUs don't. And so it's really exciting for me to share some stories from the Bible. So back to the story. There was a problem. Like Rachel, who suffered from infertility, Abraham's wife Sarai, already in her 80s, had borne no children and was thought to be barren. I imagine this would have been quite frustrating, as Abraham believed in his experience and the divine message that he received. Sarai, the devout wife that she was, first laughed at his recounting of the prophecy. Then she accepted that this blessing would help her to bear a child who would reign supreme over all others. Concerned that she had not yet conceived, she had the bright idea to give her handmaid to her husband Abraham, so that this spiritual prophecy could be fulfilled through her. Now, this was a common practice during those times and breeds some similarities of what we've seen in conditions of servitude and enslavement in the world over the past 1,000 years. You see, Sarai's handmaid was given to Abraham, and she became his concubine. In some instances and modern translations, she's recorded as his wife, which is more accurate to the polygamist terms that we might use today, or the polyamorous customs that have been practiced over the last 8,000 years. This handmaid did indeed fulfill the prophecy, and in many circles is still acknowledged and remembered today. But let me tell you a bit more about this handmaid and what makes her story so unique and relatable to women like me. Hagar, an Egyptian woman in the land of Canaan, is the maidservant or property of Sarai, Abraham's wife, who is barren. Sarai offers Hagar to her husband Abraham to produce an heir. When Hagar becomes aware of her pregnancy, she is upset. She holds her mistress in contempt and later flees to the desert to escape her harsh treatment. But while in the desert, Hagar has an encounter with a messenger of God who tells her to return and submit to her mistress's harsh treatment so that she might bear a son called Ishmael, who will become a nation under God. Moved by her experience with the divine, Hagar names God El Roi, the God who sees me. She then returns to the home of Abraham and Sarai, where she fulfills the messenger's prophecy, having a son and naming him Ishmael, a son who is blessed by a promise from God. Hagar is again named in Genesis 21, when she and her young charge are cast out from their home and left to wander in the desert wilderness. Hagar again meets God via messenger and is reminded of God's promise to make a nation of her son. She is shown a life-saving well of water and does not perish. She wanders, raises her son on the land, selects a wife from him from her home in Egypt. And now this is where the story ends, as it is recorded in the Hebrew and Christian Bibles. However, Islamic tradition records the story of Hagar and Ishmael after their expulsion from Abraham's home. It seems that Abraham struggled with God's instruction to dismiss them. And it was he that gathered water and bread and led them into the desert and the land of Mecca. It's also told that Abraham visited them often and with his son Ishmael aided in the building of the Kaaba, a building at the center of Islam's most important mosque and the most sacred site in Islam. As Lisa read, Ishmael grew to be a donkey of a man. His hand was against everyone, and everyone's hand was against him. He lived in hostility with all of his brothers. He also fathered 12 male children, who became known as the 12 nations of Ishmaelites. Now, even though her name was recorded in the Christian and Hebrew texts and has carried on through centuries and generations, Hagar is only named or mentioned by way of her son and is not named in sacred Islamic texts, even though she is known as the mother of Ishmael and his lineage. In contemporary Black Christian religions, she's often regarded as Aunt Hagar. She's regarded as Aunt Hagar, and she's most referenced by the phrase, all of Aunt Hagar's children, a phrase that acknowledges Black people as descendants of Abraham in lineage and strife, descendants living in hostility with all of their brethren. Knowing that Hagar was an Egyptian woman of African descent, it may be easy to imagine her as a woman closer to my complexion than that assumed of her mistress Sarai. And as Americans, when we think of enslaved peoples stolen from Africa, we know we are speaking of people of my complexion and much, much deeper. But the land of Canaan that God promised to his people is also in Africa. And so any of us could be the nieces and nephews of dear Aunt Hagar. Possible. In her book, Sisters in the Wilderness, The Challenge of Womanist God Talk, author and theologian Dolores Williams likens the biblical story of Hagar to the modern-day struggles of Black Christian women here in America. Williams brings special attention to these commonalities by centering Hagar as an oppressed woman forced into surrogacy and motherhood at the behest of her slave master's wife, Sarai, who is later called Sarah in the Bible. But let us remember that God also blessed Abraham's wife, Sarai, saying, I will bless her, and I will surely give you a son by her. I will bless her so that she will be the mother of nations. Kings of people will come from her. And Abraham, the clearly loving father that he was, said to God, if only Ishmael might live under your blessing. Then God said, yes, but your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you will call him Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard your prayers. I will surely bless him. I will make him fruitful and will greatly increase his numbers. He will be the father of 12 rulers, and I will make him into a great nation. But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to you by this time next year. And when he had finished speaking with Abraham, God went up from him, meaning God was present with him. Here, we have God blessing two women, both of Abraham's wives and both of Abraham's sons. What happens here is not the single story of Isaac, and that being the infamous son that Abraham brought up to the mountaintop to sacrifice. There's more to this story. The Christian and Hebrew Bibles stop there, but it's actually incomplete. Author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie warns us of the dangers of a single story. She says the single story creates stereotypes. And the problem with stereotypes is not that they're untrue, but that they are incomplete. They make one story become the only story. A single story would have us believe that only Isaac went on to rule after Ishmael is cast out. Hagar and Ishmael's story doesn't continue in the Bible of the Hebrews and Christians, but it is continued in the texts of Islam, where Ishmael is regarded as a prophet. Ishmael, son of Abraham, brother of Isaac, child of Hagar, may very well be the biblical ancestor of our many, many, many brown-skinned kin. Have you picked up on those threads of connection that I mentioned earlier? A shared African ancestry, a shared biblical ancestry, a shared ancestry of Abrahamic religion, and shared blessings of survival. History tells us that Isaac and Ishmael were born before the Crusades, before God promised to smite all those who would not worship him. Both Isaac and Ishmael were God's blessed children, his chosen people, the people that would survive. Our shared ancestries and histories are full of survivors, those who survived just long enough to pass on their seed and these blessings. The Bible doesn't always say when, where, and how we would survive and inhabit the earth from corner to corner as we do today. It just says that we would multiply. And even today, there are people, maybe the descendants of Isaac, who keep a very specific covenant with God, and some who believe their rightful place is to rule over others. And still today, there are people, maybe the descendants of Ishmael, who live at odds with their brothers, enduring constant struggle as they bear the skin and the evolved beliefs of their ancestors. Even in naming these people, we name them as kindred, as family, both biological and spiritual family. A few years ago, I heard a beautiful quote that settled deep inside my core. It was, "Your great-great-grandmother's prayers are still blessing you." Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the prayers of a mother cast out from her home into the wilderness where death was imminent? Can you hear the prayers of a mother longing to have a child or not? Can you imagine the faith that one must hold to believe they'd give birth at the age of 90, or simply that they could survive the harsh treatment of the world? It wasn't a change in biology that separated us. It was actually a change in theology, in the way that we believed, in what we chose to believe. What is it that you believe? Do you believe that as a part of this world community, do you believe that Scripture should be carried out and regarded as it was 8,000 years ago? Should we be slaughtered for not keeping the Sabbath? Should we bathe several times a day if we come in contact with a menstruating woman? Should we continue unjust hierarchical systems that enslave and oppress our siblings simply because they do not believe or look as we do? Our UU ancestor, Frank Alice, says that we need not think alike to love alike. And let me tell you, friends, that I believe in love. Love, like the prayers of our benevolent and well ancestors. Love that calls us to care for each other so that we may continue to survive and thrive. Love that calls us to see one another, just as God saw Hagar, to see each other as beloved brothers and sisters and kindred, as family. Love, like the prayers of our grandmothers that are still protecting us. For our shared ancestry and our shared African ancestry says that we are all Aunt Hagar's children. Amen? Family, kindred, may we all be loved and blessed by the promises, protections, and prayers of our ancestors. May we be surrounded by those supernatural beings known to love and save and bless us. May it be so, and amen. Our musical meditation comes to us by Mammoose, and it is called Calling All Angels.
Calling all angels here to guide you. Calling all angels to surround you. Calling all angels to walk beside you. Love, may you walk on solid ground, on solid. All of your cards are out on the table, each of your bags neatly packed. Horses are drawn and out of the stables, now there is no looking back. Each in our own, each one in our time, we'll find our way back to the source. Know as you go, I am right here behind you, loving you, living your choice. And I'm calling all angels here to guide you. Calling all angels to surround you. Calling all angels to walk beside you. Love, may you walk on solid ground, on solid ground. Calling all angels here to guide you. Calling all angels to surround you. Calling all angels to walk beside you. Love, may you walk on solid ground. Calling all angels here to guide you. Calling all angels to surround you. Calling all angels to walk beside you. love, may you walk on solid ground, on solid ground.
Our hearts are calling on so many protectors, all that is holy, all that is divine. Our hearts are now calling on love to protect all of those suffering, all of those going without, all of those hurting and transitioning and hoping. Let us remember, friends, that we are all worthy of love. We are all worthy of liberty, peace, and justice. We are our grandmother's dreamings. We are our grandfather's prayers. We are the blessings of our ancestors. Please join me in singing our closing hymn, We Are. We are. We are. We are here. We are love. We are worthy. Carl Sagan says that the nitrogen in our DNA, the calcium in our teeth, the iron in our blood, the carbon in our apple pies were made from the interiors of collapsing stars. We are made of star stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana Moore, for your service. It's beautiful. Thank you, Isabella. For those of you at home, may you have a peaceful day. For those of you here, you may join Dana in the back. She'll be happy to chat with you. And we have a potluck today, so go into the social hall and enjoy time together. Have a great day.